I was very curious to hear that you cut standing up, is that correct?
Right. Yes, I work at an architect's table, which I bought at IKEA 20 years ago, and I'm still using it. It cost me $100. And architects work standing up. So, I mean, it's not anything unusual. I have an architect's chair that if I want to sit down on a kind of elevated chair, I do. And this is really not any different than 40 years ago, editing on moviolas, the old
Upright
machine,
moviolas,
the
yeah.
upright moviola. It was more efficient to stand at that machine than it was to sit at it. So I'm just recreating now the conditions that were obtained when I began. But I think there's also something true about it. I make the comparison with film editing being a combination of cooking and orchestra conducting and surgery, and probably many other things as well, but those three are things where human beings have been doing these for hundreds or thousands of years, and we always stand to do these things. Cooks do not sit to cook. Orchestra conductors do not sit. Some of them maybe occasionally, but mostly they stand. And surgeons, for the most part, stand to do the surgery because I think time is a crucial element in each of those things. Cooking, surgery, and conducting, you have to feel time. And I just think it's a natural response when we're feeling time to want to stand.
Ah.
And that's why I stand. There are also healthy reasons for doing it. There are all kinds of articles online now where you can read that your chair is your enemy. You must stand. And I don't stand 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
I stand maybe half that time.
You go back and forth.
Right.
Kind of, yeah.
And I lean on the table. I'm not totally unsupported. At times I will lean on the table, and I also have a little footstool that I alternate my legs with.
Why standing gives you a different relationship to time than sitting?
The single word would be kinesthesia,
Uh-huh.
the sense of your body in space and time.
Yes.
Dancing is a classic example of this, and in a sense editing is a sort of dance, and the finished film is a time snapshot of a series of choreographed moments, hopefully at the right rhythms, in an interesting variation of those rhythms. I don't know what the answer is, but it has to do with how we feel time throughout our whole body.
Yeah.
And I think by putting the body on its feet, we get a better sense of the duration of time.
Yeah, that's a subject of particular interest to me, is what I would call kind of chronos perception, is how do we perceive time. And it's funny that we don't even have a word for it, because it's such an important part of our lives.
I mean, it would be an interesting experiment to have a control group and another group, and then to ask people sitting down to estimate 45 seconds.
Yeah.
Tell me when 45 seconds is up, and then another group of people who are asked the same question but they're standing. Are they more accurate than the other group? It would be an interesting thing to see if there is a difference.
And I think you're saying they are, because they're kind of doing micro-dancing. That's kind of what you're saying. What standing is kind of like micro-dancing.
Yeah.
Little small dancing moves.
There are always corrections happening.
I completely understand how editing is surgery. Actually, Namjoon Paik, who's a famous video artist, once told me, editing is like having 10 children and killing 6 of them, which I thought was a nice way to put it. But so I completely understand the surgeon, and I completely understand the cook, of course, because you're combining different things.
Right.
Say a little bit more about how editing is like being a conductor.
By saying that's where you cut. And how long is a shot? How long is a sustained moment? So it's to say an orchestra conductor but it's also an orchestrator. You are, as an editor, deciding how to how complex or simple to make a scene, obviously with the collaboration of everyone else, including the director, but at the time that you were putting the scene together, how many shots are we going to use? Who are we going to be looking at? Who is the solo instrument here? When does the group of instruments come in? When exactly do they come in, and when do I stop them and go to the other instrument? I mean, down to the seemingly very trivial question of, if somebody is walking, where do you cut? In orchestra conducting, when the orchestra conductor dips the baton and then lifts it, that's when the musical...
The upbeat.
They come in on the upbeat. And similarly in editing, again, my personal take is that it's better to cut on the uplift of the step. So step, 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 cut.
So it helps transport you perhaps to the next...
Yeah, yes. There are many times when I don't do that, but when I don't do that, I'm doing it because I want to emphasize the step. Step, 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 cut. Dun, dun, boom. Then I'm making a point about it. If I don't want to make a point about it, if I just want it to be a neutral cut, which is most of the time, because I don't want to emphasize
the
that,
cut, yeah.
then cutting on the upbeat gives you I feel, the most natural place to cut without emphasizing the steppiness of it.